the demon lord wiped out the entire sect, leaving only me and my 3 useless martial brothers playing dead on the ground. He was about to leave when my junior martial brother couldn't hold back a fart. I also couldn't hold back. I laughed. My darlings, the full story is complete. Follow me, and you can read 10 completed works I post a day. Gloomy little fry reminds you. I'm about to start rambling. I laughed, and I laughed out loud. It wasn't a delicate giggle. It was a booming, bell-like guffaw. My junior martial brother, embarrassed and angry, whispered, "Sister, stop laughing. He'll find us if you keep laughing." No sooner had he spoken than he let out another fart. My laughter had almost stopped, but seeing this, I couldn't help but burst into laughter again. Ha ha ha, Matt, you might as well just poop your pants. My senior martial brother hadn't been laughing, but my words made him chuckle. Ha ha, Matt pooped his pants. My senior martial brother and I, a mixed chorus of male and female voices, laughed until echoes filled the vast, empty valley where everyone had died. My junior martial brother's voice grew more urgent. I'm not kidding. Stop laughing, both of you. He's coming over. Honestly, tears were streaming from the corners of my eyes from laughing. He's coming over. He's coming over. We can't hide anyway. Might as well laugh it out before we die. I even nudged my junior martial brother beside me. Matt, do you have any more farts? Might as well fart it all out before you die. Senior martial brother, ha ha ha. Matt, fart it out. Seeing my junior martial brother's indignation, he finally gave up completely and yelled, "No more, no more. All the true energy in my body has been expelled." Ha ha ha. True energy? Ha ha, you've got some nerve. Senior martial brother, ha 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 ha. Matt, all gone. Ha. Our laughter abruptly stopped, because the demon lord really did walk over. A corner of his dark robe brushed my face, as poetic as if soaked in water, but the familiar stench told me it wasn't water. I instinctively held my breath, not daring to imagine the original color of his clothes. When he reached the middle of us 3, his footsteps suddenly halted. For a moment, only the strong scent of blood from him and the sound of his long sword dragging on the ground filled the air. At that moment, I finally felt the sensation of death approaching. I was so nervous I couldn't even hear my own heartbeat. My ears were dead, but my junior martial brother's wasn't. He could still fart, and it was terrifying. Probably because of extreme nervousness, my junior martial brother couldn't help but let out another fart. Junior martial brother, pfft, me, ha ha ha. The demon lord actually had a very handsome face, pale skin, blood-red lips, and hair as black as ebony. Isn't this Snow White? I was amused by my own imagination and started laughing hysterically again. The demon lord, he probably never expected that in his lifetime. He'd so accurately hit one person's funny bone and another's exhaust port. Junior martial brother, pfft, me, ha 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 ha. Matt, you farted on his face. This time, my senior martial brother didn't laugh. He seemed to have calmed down, his face as solemn as if mourning, and his voice as heavy as a death knell. He lamented, "You two troublemakers. Troublemakers made me unable to stop laughing." My senior martial brother's expression grew even more sorrowful. He looked up at the sky, his tone clearly transcending this mortal world. He calmly said, "Screw you, me, ahahaha. Senior martial brother, why are you swearing?" The demon lord was so annoyed by my laughter that his head throbbed. He involuntarily rubbed his temples. With a slight movement of his finger, a stream of energy shot straight to one of my acupuncture points. My uncontrollable laughter finally ceased. I truly wished such advanced technology could be applied to my junior martial brother sooner. He coldly scanned our faces, his voice deep and devoid of emotion. "3 of you." As if to compensate for his previous inappropriate behavior, my junior martial brother tried to curry favor, volunteering, "Demon lord, senior martial brother and his concubine, Matt. How can you not distinguish between a declarative sentence and an interrogative sentence?" My face was filled with indignation. "Matt, how can you not understand ellipses and interrogative tones?" My junior martial brother looked terrified. "Oh no, is it still too late to retract what I just said?" The demon lord, he coughed lightly, attempting to restore seriousness to the current situation. "What can you all do?" "Oh my God." My eyes immediately lit up. I straightened my posture, my expression focused and earnest, as if listening to divine music. Judging by his tone, did we actually have a chance to live? However, before I could speak, those 2 cowardly fellows blurted out the answer I was about to say. My senior martial brother's eyes shone brightly. and the sword light beneath his feet was dazzling. I can fly with a sword. Immediately afterward, he fell from the sword to the ground, face planting. If you were proficient in sword flying, you wouldn't still be here. My junior martial brother's eyes were firm, and a light flashed by his hand. I can wrap my head with a knife, but as soon as he raised the knife, he looked confused and mumbled, "Wrong, wrong again. This direction seems to be for the head-wrapping knife. You figured that out? Others wrap their feet, but you wrap your small brain, huh?" The demon lord looked at this comical scene, his expression surprisingly cold. He slowly shook his head. Useless. Moreover, his hand tightened on the hilt of his sword, as if murderous intent was rising in his heart. "Even if you practiced all these skillfully, could you surpass me? Me, you copy. So annoying. I really want to copy him." Literally, his words were both arrogant and factual. After all, the horrifying scene of corpses piled up for miles across the mountain was the best proof that could be written on his resume. Perhaps he suddenly remembered me, who had just been killed and was still laughing next to him. He turned his head, his dark eyes like a bottomless pool, looking at me without any emotional. "What about you?" "Me, thank you for the invitation. I'm 6'1" tall. I can cook and do laundry. I have an 8-pack. And I can fix elevators. I'm good at swimming, diving, gliding, and bungee jumping. I train in taekwondo, sanda, and free combat. My favorite thing to do is brag. Of course, I wouldn't dare say that. I still really wanted to seize this chance to survive. But with my senior and junior martial brothers' failures right in front of me, it was hard not to hesitate. I tried hard to use my smart little brain to think carefully. Seeing that I hadn't spoken, the demon lord seemed to lose patience. His eyes grew colder and colder, looking at me as if I were a dead object. His hand gradually tightened on the hilt of his sword. Under the oppressive aura around him, fine beads of sweat involuntarily appeared on my forehead, and my heart beat violently. Just then, inspiration struck me. I patted my chest. "I can cook." Senior martial brother looked shocked. "Seriously, you have the nerve to say that?" Junior martial brother also looked shocked. "Sister, you can cook? Then why do you make me go down the mountain every day to buy food for you? You really can tell which one is dumber. And what's the point of bringing up old scores now? Why don't you drink the forgetfulness potion first when we get down there?" Only after the words left my mouth did I realize how foolish I had sounded. At this point, I was disheartened and pale, waiting for the demon lord's final judgment. Unexpectedly, the man who looked like a harbinger of death instantly changed his expression upon hearing my words. The change in expression was very subtle, but I keenly caught it. He spoke again, his voice still cold, but clearly with a hint of interest. "You can cook?" I instantly perked up. "Yes, my lord. Stir-frying, braising, and pan-frying are my main techniques. Sweet, sour, bitter, spicy, salty, you name it. I can make it." Those deep, calm eyes suddenly rippled. "Can you make pastries?" I was momentarily stunned. "Ah, pastries? The demon lord likes small pastries?" It wasn't until my senior and junior martial brothers shot me several glances, practically flying into my face, that I finally reacted. As if waking from a dream, I nodded repeatedly. "Yes, yes, yes. What would you like to eat?" I counted on my fingers, my expression exceedingly eager. "Fortune cakes, love potion soup, lucky fruit, wealthy crisps, sugar-steamed cream, plum blossom scented cakes, almond Buddha's hand, imperial court bean paste. As long as you name it, I can try." My junior martial brother was thunderstruck by my recitation of dishes, mumbling, "So sister really can cook. I haven't even heard of the names of these pastries she's talking about." This time, my senior martial brother surprisingly didn't refute. He covered his face and sighed. "I've never heard of them either." They both embraced, crying bitterly, "Wah, we're such country bumpkins." I didn't have time to bother with them. My eyes were fixed intently on the demon lord in front of me. His high nose, thin lips, and clear, defined features were indescribably handsome. That cold, icy face suddenly twisted into a smile. Although it was so faint it was almost imperceptible. It struck me like ice melting into warm sunlight, hitting me right in the heart. He slowly began to speak. Just what I thought. My heart swelled with joy, and I held my breath. "I hate cooks the most." My heart plummeted in shock, my breath catching. "I passed?" Seeing my expression, he chuckled. "Especially cooks who make pastries. My goodness, what brand of calculator is this? So good at scheming." digging a pit and waiting for me to jump in. I immediately changed my tone. No, boss, actually I'm not a cook. I've never made pastries before. Although it was largely true, it was still a fact. How could such a thing come out of my mouth? The demon lord, however, seemed to pay no mind to my explanation. He suddenly changed the subject, slowly asking me, I wiped out your entire sect. Don't you want revenge? How was I supposed to explain to him that I had only transmigrated a few days ago and still didn't even know who my master was? His gaze then shifted to my martial brothers beside me. What about you two, my martial brothers? How were they supposed to explain to him that we had also only transmigrated a few days ago, and that just yesterday we had hugged and acknowledged each other as siblings after an argument about you kissed John and you just kissed John? So, the three of us honestly shook our heads and said, no, demon lord. Besides, even if I wanted revenge, I wouldn't just say it directly to your face, would I? It's almost the new year, nothing good to send, so I'll just send you 3 heads, one by one. I glanced at his face, which, though handsome, was clearly filled with malice, and I couldn't help but inwardly complain. Upon hearing our rather servile replies, the demon lord's lips seemed to twitch. Perhaps it was my imagination, but I thought I detected a hint of disappointment on his face. What does that mean? Does he want me to look determined and defiant, straighten my back, and yell, Demon Lord, I will avenge my sect and kill you, you bastard, to satisfy him? My mind inexplicably flashed with a bunch of similar scenes from idle dramas, and my heart fluttered. Fortunately, the Demon Lord didn't seem to enjoy playing games like he runs. He chases, he can't escape, although I didn't know why. He actually let us go. This lord will not kill you for now. He calmly sheathed his sword. My heart swelled with joy, and I took a deep breath. Follow me closely. My heart sank in alarm, and my breath caught. Ugh, can this jerk let a person breathe properly? He, however, seemed utterly unconcerned. As he turned, he left us with only that sentence, not even looking back. My martial brothers and I exchanged glances, seeing in each other's faces the immense relief of we don't want to go, but we really want to live, so maybe we should just follow him. Me, no wonder the demon lord didn't want to kill us. If it were me, I'd also find killing these 3 idiots a waste, just increasing the wear and tear on my sword. I lowered my head, walking and thinking this, when I unexpectedly bumped into something hard, hurting my forehead. I cried out in pain and looked up, meeting the demon lord's half-smiling eyes. I realized I had just bumped into his back. I couldn't help but swallow. Why didn't you put on your brake lights when you stopped? His physique was long, giving him a considerable height advantage over me. He was looking down at me, his face still pale and gloomy. Although exceptionally handsome, it still made my eyes dart around, not daring to meet his gaze. His indifferent voice reached my ears. From now on, you're in charge of cooking. What? Didn't you say you hated cooks the most? You have backbone, so don't eat food made by a cook. I straightened my back, my gaze firm and defiant, my expression possessing the demeanor of an old-school idle drama heroine. Then, under the demon lord's gaze, I bowed deeply at a 90-degree angle. Yes, my lord, there are no difficulties I cannot overcome. Demon lord, regardless, I was alive. My martial brothers were also alive. They chattered for half the journey, and their conclusion was that we survived entirely because I could cook. What kind of logical chain is this? No, is there even any logic in this chain? Senior martial brother, this is the first time in his life he's experienced what it means to be full when one person eats, and the whole family isn't hungry. Junior martial brother said, this is the first time in his life he's realized what it means for one person to achieve enlightenment and their family to ascend to heaven. Senior martial brother scolded junior martial brother, Matt, do you even know how to use idioms? If you don't use them. Junior martial brother knows, looking confused. Did I say it wrong? What should I have said then? Senior martial brother said, utterly exasperated, if you really can't think of a synonym, just put a 1. Junior martial brother had a flash of inspiration. He raised his hand and said, me too. I, who was usually lively, had now unusually adopted the principle of silence is golden. I hadn't uttered a word the entire way. It wasn't because I had just experienced a brush with death, but because the physical distance between me and the demon lord was too close. I estimated it to be a full 7 feet. That's too close. As the one closest to the demon lord, I felt that the temperature around me was significantly lower than around my martial brothers. Given that for every 328 feet of elevation, the temperature drops by 0.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and the temperature around me is 666 degrees Fahrenheit lower than normal, what is the demon lord's height? I choose C. Obtuse angle. I sighed deeply, feeling anxious about the culinary challenges I might face next. The demon lord letting us go this time couldn't possibly be just because I could cook. In the eyes of someone as cold and violent as him, my useless martial brothers and I were merely three struggling ants on the ground. If he was in the mood, he would play with us casually. Once he got bored, he could crush us with a single stomp. After all, I still had too little information. I stared at the man's back ahead of me, lost in thought. I only knew that the sect I belonged to was called Flying Cloud Sect, and the disciples were all named with the character Cloud. In this world that revered strength, it seemed to be a considerable reputable sect. My senior martial brother was Cloud Ridge, and my junior martial brother was Cloud Sail, and I was Cloud Bridge. The three of us clearly remembered that we had transmigrated, but we also faced the same strange problem. We had all forgotten our identities in reality. Aside from occasional internet slang and scattered memories, our minds contained no truly valuable information related to reality. I once joked that with these names, we might even be relatives in real life, but it only earned me silence from my martial brothers. After all, even these names might not be our real names. In that sense, the three of us weren't even as good as the seemingly solitary demon lord in front of us. At least he had his own name, though I doubted anyone would be bold enough to call him by it. His name was Percy. I looked at the solitary figure ahead and couldn't help but sigh. His name really fit him. I wondered what deep-seated grudge he had with the Flying Cloud Sect to the point of slaughtering their entire sect. Soon after I arrived in this world, I heard about Percy's deeds, and I knew full well that Flying Cloud Sect was not the first sect he had massacred. Skyvault Manor, Starbright Cult, Primeval Valley, Extreme Cold, the names of these sects were all widely known, and their elders were all famous figures. Yet, in the end, they could only become Percy's sword fodder. However, despite being called a demon, villain, and wicked person by all righteous sects, he was not considered a dangerous individual by the common folk. Although the number of people he had killed could probably fill numerous sects, his targets were limited to these sects. In this cultivation world where human lives were as cheap as grass, moral concepts were pathetically thin. Only strength determined all actions. Common people only cared who was harmless to them and who could bring them benefits. They didn't care about the accusations leveled against Percy by the various sects. Because the information I received was only one side of the story from the sects, I still doubted Percy's true character. I needed to know why Percy had unleashed such a massacre on them to understand the truth of the matter. But what did that have to do with me? I wasn't a judge. See, friends, this is the uninteresting part of thinking. After thinking for so long, not a single meme came to mind. Thinking of this, my steps became lighter. Whether it was with Percy or the sects, I had no ties, no grievances. In this world, the only people I truly cared about were those two useless martial brothers who had also come from another world. I looked back at the two little kids still bickering behind me and couldn't help but sigh. My wayward sons break their father's heart. Even though my teammates were unreliable, I decided to pull myself together. My martial brothers and I both wanted to leave here and return to the real world. Although this world seemed to offer us no clues, if a single sect could have 3 transmigrators, were we truly the only 3 transmigrators in this world? Percy led us to an inn. The innkeeper probably didn't expect that the first question such a fierce-looking person would ask upon entering was where the kitchen was. The innkeeper, looking bewildered, pointed at me. I, covered in dust, walked in head first. I guess the innkeeper might have been relieved. After all, I at least looked like I could cook properly, and who knows what Percy would do if he went in. The kitchen was a dangerous place, with knives, fire, and a large oil pot. I scanned the ingredients in the kitchen, and immediately had an idea. I rolled up my sleeves, brimming with confidence. I hadn't lied to Percy. I could indeed cook, and I was pretty good at it. Otherwise, my muscle memory wouldn't have remained until now. There happened to be a lively grass carp in the kitchen, weighing about 1 pound. Its fresh and tender flesh was perfect for a main dish. I cleaned and sliced it, then dropped it into boiling water. In less than half a moment, it was ready to be scooped out and plated, drizzled with sauce. A sweet and sour Westlake vinegar fish was complete. For the vegetable dish, I chose a refreshing stir-fried lotus pond assortment. I also casually made a pot of tomato and egg soup. The mung bean porridge gurgled on the stove. I looked at the mung beans still soaking in water next to it, deep in thought. Everything was prepared: one meat dish, one vegetable dish, one soup, along with the mung bean porridge, were all placed on the table. I looked at the colorful, nutritionally balanced dishes on the table and regretted not having my cell phone to take pictures. This wouldn't even need a filter. My senior and junior Marshall brothers were dumbfounded. Even Percy raised an eyebrow when he saw the scene, which made me quite pleased. Have you heard of Little Chef? Have you heard of Cooking Master Boy? Have you heard of Cloud Bridge? My Marshall brothers and my cooking skills combined could be said to be the best in the world. However, if we added one more, it might be a bit questionable. Seeing my Marshall brothers, who had been hungry for half a day, about to sit down casually, I quickly pulled out a chair and shot them a glare. My Marshall brothers immediately understood and, along with me, stood at attention, respectfully saying to Percy, "Sir, please." Percy, he didn't show any extra expression at our sycophantic actions. He simply said indifferently, "This lord is not hungry," and then turned and left. My scatterbrained Marshall brothers had already sat down and started eating heartily upon hearing this, but I stared at Percy's departing back, my heart fluctuating. This guy is so strange. He let us go, but then made us follow him. He told me to cook, but when I actually cooked, he didn't eat. Me, a brat who doesn't eat is usually spoiled. A beating should fix it. My junior Marshall brother suddenly spoke in a pitiful voice. "Sister, I'm still not full." I casually replied, "There's still porridge in the pot." My junior Marshall brother grew even more pathetic. "But there are no more dishes." I put down my bowl and said earnestly, "You're still young. Don't listen to nonsense online. You only eat vegetables and meat. You have to believe in the Chinese way. You have to eat carbs." Junior Marshall brother, "Actually, everything you said." I immediately placed my index finger to my lips, signaling for silence. Eating is not about making casual promises. Alright, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Junior Marshall brother, he picked up his bowl with a wronged expression and went to the kitchen to get porridge. When he opened the lid, he suddenly let out a surprised sound. "Hey, sister, you also made mung bean paste." I frantically put down my bowl and chopsticks and rushed to the kitchen. Just as his hand reached for the bowl of mung bean paste, I stopped him. I carefully placed the mung bean paste aside and said solemnly, "I'll make it for you again later, sister. Right now, the conditions aren't ideal, and my survival is paramount." My junior Marshall brother, looking bewildered, was pushed out of the kitchen by me. I, on the other hand, breathed a sigh of relief. I simply washed my hands and started making mung bean cakes. Although I didn't know if the demon lord liked small pastries, he hadn't eaten anything anyway. Making them was better than not making them. Think what the boss thinks, do what the boss wants. The steamed mung bean cakes were pale yellow, fragrant, and soft. Because a little oil and honey were added, they looked even more lustrous. I skillfully arranged the pastries into a flower shape and carried the plate upstairs. When I reached Percy's room door, the hand I was about to use to knock suddenly paused. A sense of déjà vu inexplicably surged through me. Percy opened the door just then. Upon seeing me, a flicker of surprise crossed his eyes. I instinctively offered him the pastries in my hand. "I made mung bean cakes. Want to eat some together?" As soon as the words left my mouth, my heart sank. Me? How dare I? Not only did I not address him formally, but I also suggested eating together. Truly, boss, open the door. I'm getting in the car. Boss, serve the food. I'll turn the table. But I swore I didn't do it on purpose. This sentence, like my cooking movements, was entirely a remnant of deep-seated memories. Just like what Percy just said. Good. Wait. I looked at Percy's indifferent expression in front of me, dumbfounded. Did he just say good? Percy took the plate, casually picked up a piece, and put it in my wide-eyed, dumbfounded mouth. He then slowly ate another piece himself. The freshly baked mung bean cake was warm, dense, fragrant, and melted in the mouth. But these weren't the main points. My cheeks were puffed out like a hamster's, and my eyes were wide like a hamster's. I looked incredulously at the demon lord, who was eating elegantly in front of me. The main point was that he was actually eating the pastries I made, and he was even feeding me pastries, and it didn't feel weird at all. I swallowed the pastry in my mouth, my face filled with shock. Looking at his indifferent expression, I suddenly remembered something and asked tremblingly, "How are you?"